Manchester City are currently facing the prospect of no Champions League football for 2 years. So what does that mean for the current players at the club who harbour ambitions of winning the biggest trophy in club football? Well, today I'm going to be looking at 5 players who could potentially leave Manchester City should they be banned from European competition. The first one, and it's Raheem Sterling. Now, is he going to be moving back to Liverpool? Absolutely not. There is no way that his former club are going to buy him back, but it looks more than likely that Raheem Sterling could be moving abroad. The 25-year-old did mention that one day in his career he would love to move, and what better chance than now if City aren't in European football? That is the one trophy that Raheem Sterling hasn't yet won as a footballer, having pretty much completed domestic football with Manchester City in England. So, if he is going to move on, he will command a massive fee, but this is probably the right time to do it. Now, Raheem Sterling's not going to become a bad player overnight, nor is he going to become a bad player while sticking with Manchester City. Having said that, teams who are in the Champions League and who are really at the forefront of European football, well, their players often go for a much bigger transfer fee. And if Manchester City, who, by the way, and it'll be a recurring theme for this video, are definitely going to be under the watchful eye of all the FFP rule makers because of the rules that they broke, well, they're going to need a fair bit of money coming in if they're to rebuild another squad and challenge for the Champions League when they're eventually allowed back in. This is where selling Raheem Sterling could bring them a lot of money. Put it this way, in 2 years' time, if Barca, Real Madrid or someone comes in for Sterling and they're buying him from a team who's not in European competition, maybe has gone on the slide a little bit and isn't even finishing in the top 4 of the Premier League, they're probably not going to be paying as much for a then 27-year-old. So maybe City could do with getting rid of him. Of course, this is based on whether they actually are kicked out of the Champions League, but one player who could leave regardless is Leroy Sane. Honestly, he just does not seem to get on with Pep Guardiola, and the fact that there have been constant rumours about him switching to Bayern, despite the fact that he's been injured all season, really shows you that something is going on there. With Leroy Sane, apparently his agents have also said that he wants to move to Bayern because he believes he's got the best chance of winning the Champions League there. Obviously, if City aren't even in it, but even so, before the final verdict has been delivered on City's ban, saying that there's definitely a better chance of winning the Champions League at Bayern than City, he might be right, but it's still throwing a little bit of shade on his current club. As we mentioned before, Leroy Sane is going to fetch around 90 to 100 million in most cases from Bayern Munich, so City could probably do with bringing that kind of money to spend elsewhere. By the way, I'm not saying that Manchester City are completely going to fall apart and not have any money, but as we did mention, they're going to have to play by the rules more when it comes to money, and also, are their massively wealthily backed owners really going to keep funding a project which isn't going to see the biggest of results? Who knows? But next up, and for a slightly different reason, Sergio Aguero may need to leave the club. Literally unbelievable servant for Manchester City. I mean, the amount of goals that he scored makes him one of, if not the best striker in Premier League history. But as with every other Manchester City player at the moment, the Champions League is eluding them. And the thing is with Aguero, well, he's getting into his early 30s. At 31 years old, he has said that he would love to finish his club with Argentinian boyhood club Independiente, but he'd also love to win the Champions League. So if he sticks with City for 2 years, he'll then be 33. And is he going to be the number 1 striker at City? Are they even going to need him anymore? And is any other club who's going to win the Champions League, like the biggest teams in Europe, then going to go out and buy a 33-year-old? I mean, 1, they'll probably already have a top striker because they'll be one of the top clubs in Europe. And 2, if they do need a top striker, why don't they just go for someone maybe at a better age, a better sell-on value, who's got better potential than the 33-year-old Sergio Aguero? I'm not saying he's going to be bad at 33, but there's probably going to be better options out there for him. If he needs to make a move to a Champions League winner, it probably, obviously based on the ban, has to be now. So the 4th player, and one that City will be desperate to hold on to, is Kevin De Bruyne. You can't doubt his loyalty to the club. He's been absolutely brilliant for them, despite the fact there have been many transfer rumours swirling, especially links to Real Madrid. And this is the one thing with Kevin De Bruyne. If he were to leave Manchester City, there is not a team in Europe who would bite your hand off at the chance to sign the Belgian playmaker. I mean, he would fit into any team pretty much unbelievably, and any side with him in would then automatically have a better chance of winning the Champions League. I mean, regardless of the team that he moves to, they're going to be a good side. They're going to be the ones that can afford him. And then they're going to have Kevin De Bruyne in there as well, which is just going to make their midfield that much better. There isn't a team in world football at the moment that I can't see him fitting into. And as I mentioned before, if you're going to be fighting for the Champions League, having the best players in your team is probably a massive, massive help. At 28 years old as well, he really is in the peak of his powers. By the way, I'm not saying that like age 30 in a couple of years' time he'll be bad, but probably not at the exact peak that he's in now, and especially with Kevin De Bruyne's recent injury history, he may find that one or two niggles might be slowing him down earlier than he would have anticipated in his career. Again, 30-year-old Kevin De Bruyne, still most teams would have taken that in European football, but if he's to make that massive move and win the Champions League, it will probably need to be away from City. So lastly but not least, and I've kind of lied to you guys here, it's not 5 players, it's 4 and the manager. Will Pep Guardiola actually be sticking around? On one side, he's come out in the press conferences and said all the right things, that he's going to be staying at City, he's going to be honouring his contract and this and that and the other. But realistically, if the verdict is returned and there is 2-year ban for Manchester City in the Champions League, will he be staying? I mean, first off, Manchester City are running the risk of losing a lot of their players, the 4 on this list and maybe a few more. Secondly, they're then going to have to rebuild. And thirdly, the rule makers are going to be watching them very closely. Without these players, Manchester City need a new squad. They need to buy some new players, but they can't go spending cash willy-nilly just like they did before. This is going to be very difficult for Pep Guardiola, an unbelievable coach, but I think it's fair to say he has pretty much had an open checkbook when it comes to all the sides that he has coached. And on top of this, it's no secret that Guardiola really wants to get over this hoodoo of overthinking it in the big games, in the Champions League, and to be honest, he hasn't lifted the trophy since 2011. City may not be back in the competition till 2022-23, and well, is Guardiola really not going to have his head turned by some of the massive sides that he has not yet coached? I mean, a coach of his calibre, and the fact he's already dominated domestic football in Spain, Germany and England, basically means that either PSG or Juventus in France and Italy respectively may be able to turn his head. There have been rumours of a link to Juventus, and the flip side of this is once a team like Juve knows that Guardiola is available, there's very few managers that they wouldn't then sack to bring the Spaniard in. Maurizio Sarri is no exemption. So there you have it, 5 players, well, 4 players and 1 manager who I think might be leaving Manchester City should their Champions League ban stick. Of course, you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below about whether or not they're actually going to get the ban and who you think will be the first to leave. Whilst you're at it, you can smash the like button whilst you're down there and click here or here to check out all of the other videos we've got going on OneFootball. But until next time, I will see you guys later.